What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be breaking down all of the free agency moves up to about 5 p.m. Central Time on the first day of free agency. Now, this will be encompassing of a little bit of what happened before, but I was creating the graphics for it and realized Ari's website, the 33rd team, I know he's employed by them, not necessarily his website, but they did actually a really solid job, so I'll leave that link in the description as well. But I want to give my 2 cents on the majority of these contracts. Super exciting for it. But if you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good YouTube stuff. Everything helps. Below my face is my draft board because I do a lot of draft content, and honestly, I thought it was actually a little bit nicer of a UI to use this, or UI to use this instead of being able to just, look at just a straight up web page. It looks a little better. Below that are all the links to be able to get more involved in the community as well. Take advantage of our 2 sponsors, Olipop as well as UnderDog Fantasy. Save some money, spend some money, enjoy yourselves. Starting out, we're going to go by position. I have already been keeping up with the news quite a bit today. So if you want to hear me continue to blabber on and on and on, you can either stick here or else go to Twitter. That is where I do a lot of great stuff. So feel free to follow me over there. Big one today was Kirk Cousins. So Kirk Cousins signing with Atlanta, that was kind of a move that I've been almost assuming for a hot minute now. Made a lot of sense. Kind of pretty much your budget version of Matthew Stafford, even though it doesn't seem very budget when you pay 4 for 180. I think about 100 of that is guaranteed, so it's about 2.5-year rental, so to speak. And, those first years are fully guaranteed, so good job for Kirk on that one. But, overall, you're looking at a player who is going to elevate your roster. It is an upgrade, and it's a very similar quarterback style to what was very successful there in LA. Baker Mayfield, this was last night, re-signed with the Buccaneers on a 3-year, $100 million deal. Super happy for Baker if he ends up maintaining this level of competition and being able to be as good as he was. This is going to be honestly a really solid deal. $33 million for a lower end starter. Like, honestly, that's really, really solid. And it's a very similar quarterback archetype to what has already worked there in Tampa Bay, like Tom Brady, but obviously not nearly as good, but that's okay. But of course, Russell Wilson last night signed with the Steelers. As a Steelers fan, I know everybody was excited to hear my thoughts on this. Realistically, I wanted Justin Fields, but would I rather part with a 2nd round pick or maybe a 3rd round pick and pay $6 million, which the money doesn't matter that much, but $6 million plus maybe a $25 million, or keep my picks, get an upgrade for $1.2 million. I think they're so close because I think Justin has that potential to be a real star quarterback, but also just like every quarterback or every star in any sport, they always, if they've been able to be great, they still have that greatness in them, whether it's going to be applicable for a whole season, a whole game, or even just a whole drive, it's still in there. And Russell Wilson is an upgrade. He was one of the best in terms of touchdown to interception ratios as well last year. And that's awesome. He's way better than Kenny Pickett. I mean, he's going to be more efficient. Don't try to act like Kenny Pickett was, all of a sudden amazing. Mason Rudolph did far more than Kenny Pickett did. And let's not act like Mason Rudolph is the end all be all. He's not the savior. So Russell Wilson is an upgrade. I'm happy for it. It's really cheap and allows us to build everywhere else, although I really wish we got Lloyd Cushenberry. Gardner Minshew today signed with the Raiders. I commented on this, so it's $12.5 a year. I just call it the battle of mid. You're pretty much guaranteeing, like, my takeaway from this was that Antonio Pierce is really comfortable with his job security. And that's honestly great because you're bringing in somebody who's actually a really good locker room presence, and unless something really is good on the board, like let's just say Jaden Daniels falls within striking range, you're essentially saying we're not going to pander to giving up more than what we should to get a position we need. And, you're probably going to be able to suck for one more year if you don't end up getting a good QB. Gardner, to be fair, almost brought the Colts to the playoffs. Like, we do got to bring that up. He is adequate, but he's just not a plus starter. And this team now has the ability to go best player available. You have 2 adequate quarterbacks on roster that aren't great. You'll probably have a high pick next year. You don't need to spend that on a QB because that next class isn't very good. But I think Antonio Pierce is very comfortable building up the roster around these guys. So I'm very excited to see what the plan's going to be. Mitch Trubisky signed with the Bills. I don't even remember that happening, but that might have been while I was recording my corners video that's going to be coming out tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that. 17 corners. 44 minutes. It is going to be a blast because it's unlike anything you've ever seen. Also, you can see the big surprise already on the board, which I should move away from that so you guys don't get to see the surprise. Like, we'll leave it right there. That's a little bit more understandable for y'all. But continuing on, you got Brandon Allen. He re-signed with the Niners on a $2 million deal. Good locker room presence. Good dude. Not going to really comment on that. Saquon Barkley. This is a big one. So he signed with the Eagles on $37.75 deal. A good portion of that, 26, was guaranteed. Now, Howie, to me, just never seemed like a guy who would go out, sign a running back to a 3-year contract. With the success he's had, top 5 production for Swift, top 5 for Miles Sanders. Do you really need to pay that much more? I mean, how much more can you get? Number one, you're essentially going to you're going to pray that Saquon is Christian McCaffrey. That's the goal with this deal, is that we need a Christian McCaffrey. Top 5 is not good enough. We need a top 2 back. I hope that Saquon stays healthy. And if he does, you very well might have the number 2, or if not the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL. Very excited to see what happens there, because obviously the talent is undeniable. I love Penn State. I'm a Saquon guy. I love Saquon. It just sometimes makes me feel a little bit more confused when DeAndre Swift, who might be 1 or 2 spots lower, so to speak, 5th instead of 3rd or 4th, is going to get significantly less. Because I was like, okay, Howie wouldn't sign a running back to a 3-year deal. This is just very unlike Howie. Obviously, the talent is there. He's a great player, but it just definitely is a surprise. Josh Jacobs signed with the Packers on 4-year, $48. When they cut Aaron Jones, that makes a lot more sense. When I first saw it, I was like, damn, he's going to be an RB2. He's going to be RBBC, like a legit RBBC. And now he's not. He's going to be the head honcho there. So I'm very excited to see what the RB2 to be able to be the, understudy, the Robin, so to speak, to the Batman on Josh Jacobs will be there in the Green Bay. I love the physicality of Josh Jacobs. Big fan of that. DeAndre Swift, just talked about him, signed with the Bears on a 3-year, $24 million deal. I'm not a fan of this solely because of the fact that I really love Roschon Johnson. I think the Bears running back core is pretty damn solid. He's going to be a slight upgrade, but, $8 million a year, do you really need to spend that? Like, I don't think so. Like, it doesn't seem like the perfect move. It's not a bad move. It's just like, you already have guys there, man. Like, let Khalil Herbert do his thing. Let Roschon Johnson do his thing. Like, I didn't really feel like that was going to be a big shift, but it does show a little bit more of a shift towards a focus on the offense. And I think that could mean that they're wanting to increase the speed of the overall offense. Whether that's going to be a Caleb thing or a Justin thing, I don't know. But they're certainly looking to fully gear up that offense. Tony Pollard signed with the Titans. I didn't like this deal at all. This is far worse, in my opinion, than the DeAndre Swift deal. And Tony Pollard is a great player, right? Was a great player. I don't think that he's a great running back anymore. I think that he's not worth $8 million a year after, tearing his ACL, not being the best back in the world. And you're also giving the middle finger to Tyjae Spears. Why would you pay a backup running back $8 million a year if you really believe in Tyjae Spears? I know Tyjae had that issue with the meniscus. I'm not 100% sure if that's been fixed, but I love Tyjae Spears. I wanted him to be the guy. And then you get somebody, like a J.K. Dobbins to be, again, that Robin to the Batman. And now you're just kind of getting guys of, based on this price, equal value. If not, putting Tyjae back to RB2. Not a fan of that. Devin Singletary paired back up with Daboll there. They had their time together in Buffalo, going to the Giants for a 3-year, $16.5 million deal. Solid. Nothing spectacular. Devin had a solid-ass year last year. I just don't know how replicable that's going to be. I love Eric Gray. I think this is a very similar style to Eric Gray. So, again, you're kind of not letting the guys who I would hope have an opportunity to shine. Gus Edwards, this is new. Signed with the Chargers on a 2-year deal. I have not been up to date with this, so to speak. I mean, I only missed like 44 minutes. It's going to be how long the corner video is on being able to look at the freaking corners. Like, the hell happened in that time? So, what the hell? Okay, we're going to have to talk about a lot of this. Gus Edwards signed with the Chargers on a 2-year deal. Based on that, it's brand new. So, we're still waiting on the figures for that. I love the ground and pound game that Gus Edwards is going to bring. So, I'm a big supporter of this one. He definitely feels like a Harbaugh type of guy. I was really hoping he'd stick on the Ravens. Not as a Steelers fan, but, hoping the best for the Ravens. Gus Edwards really was kind of that identity I was looking for. I feel like this deal might be a 2-year, $8 million deal. He's kind of a backup running back. But speaking of a guy who I honestly think has still starter potential, Antonio Gibson goes to the Patriots, $11 0.25 over 3. He has receiver potential as well. He was a receiver there at Memphis who was a running back hybrid. That's great. Devontae Parker just got released as well. I'm a huge fan of this one. It's a really good deal. The Patriots got themselves a very solid value here. Stays healthy and stays consistent. There's still a lot of untapped potential there, and I'm really hoping that Antonio Gibson proves to be the player who we all thought he once was. Amir Abdullah re-signed with the Raiders on a 1-year deal. Whoop-de-doo. I'm not really over the moon about that. T. Higgins was given the franchise tag, but he also was given permission, or he actually requested a trade. So we'll see where that ends up based on the Gabriel Davis news, which we'll talk about like literally in a second. I wish it were going to go to the Jaguars. It looks like it might be the Titans because there's not many teams that might be willing to give a second-round pick for T. Higgins that, have the cap space for it, have the need for it. Jaguars are certainly soaking up a lot of their cap, so to speak, with that. But Mike Evans re-signed on that 2-year, $41 million deal. For some reason, I thought it was a little bit more expensive than that. I didn't know it was 2 years, 41. I thought it was something like 50. It was like 58. So I guess I was wrong. I thought it was like 52 million maybe. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to trust a 33rd team over my own recollection on that on the fly. If that's a deal, that's awesome. Mike Evans, he's getting older, so I don't think he should be getting paid like 25 plus a year. But it's just great to see him retire a Buccaneer, especially with Baker back. It's going to be a good 1-2 punch. Baker definitely developed a good trust for Mike Evans. Michael Pittman Jr., go Oaks Christian. Obviously, he was one of my guys that I got to see back there in high school. He was actually at my first 7-on-7 game to coach us up right as he went to USC. So great memories there. But he ended up re-signing with the Colts on a 3-year, $7 million deal. It's going to end up being a steal in the long run. Even right now, like based on the market value, if you just essentially look at what it's going to be, he's going to be like paid as a top 15 to 20 receiver, if not less than that, by the time of his next deal, because we're going to see some really good receivers just about to get paid. Michael Pittman Jr. is a true wide receiver 1. This team is certainly getting a damn good deal. Gabe Davis signed with the Jaguars, 3 years, 39. You're essentially getting him for dirt cheap for a wide receiver 2. I think this is perfectly fine. I didn't think that it was going to be great if it were like a 3-year, $50 million deal. But this is pretty damn budget, and that's perfectly fine in my eyes. This team needs extra weapons. I'm not going to complain. Nelson Aguilar ended up re-signing with the Ravens. I'm pretty sure this happened quite a while ago, but good depth right there. Kendrick Bourne. Don't really remember this deal happening anytime recently, but 3-year, 19.5, quite solid. He's a good player. He should be rewarded for his play, and 3-year, 19.5 is a great deal. Demarcus Robinson, remember hearing about this one, 1 year, $4 million. This dude's extremely underrated. Super stud. I'm a huge fan of Demarcus Robinson. Devin Duvernay signed with the Jaguars on a 2-year, $12.5. I don't remember hearing about this. Of course, not every deal gets announced in the news either. So, there's that too. 12.5 over 2. It's a damn good deal. He has returner ability. He was a guy who had a fringe first-round pick coming out, which should show you that I had a lot to learn. But he's somebody who has a lot of talent. Great after the catch as well. I'm hoping that he has a career resurgence there. I will just say the Jaguars getting him is a little bit weird because I think he actually plays similarly to Parker Washington. I don't know if they want him to just be almost a mentor, but a little bit annoying. Then we go to the tight ends. So we got Dalton Schultz. So Dalton Schultz, 3 years, 36. Already happened, but that's a big deal for the Texans. Good job for him. Hunter Henry re-signed with the Patriots. Also happened this past week. I don't think he's really worth $9 million a year, but that's okay. The Patriots are willing to pay. They're still getting a quality weapon there. Shout out to Colby, another Oaks Christian Lion. So he also played with Michael Pittman Jr., fun fact. But I actually got to play next to Colby Parkinson for a little while there. One of the best dudes I ever met in my entire life. So happy he got his money. He's going back to Los Angeles because that's where we all went to high school on a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. Instant upgrade as a blocker too. Even though he's not like the best blocker in the world, this dude works his ass off. Like, I'm a huge fan of Colby. I'm so happy to see him go home though. Like, that's awesome to me. Big fan of Colby. Shout out to him. Honestly, again, quality dude. Like, even when like some other people wouldn't even talk to me, this guy will stop in the halls and genuinely stop there and have like a 10, 15, 20-minute conversation with you. Like, person wise, hard to find someone better. So shout out to him. A+ dude. I think he's worth even more than that, but that's just my biased opinion. Jonnu also last week signed with the Dolphins, 2 years, 8.4. So that's a very quality deal. I think that's an excellent deal for the Dolphins. Honestly, not so much for Jonnu. Will Dissly signed with the Chargers, 240-pound or a bigger tight end, really good blocking. As long as he's healthy, he's a big plus, and he definitely helps out with the run game. He's right up there with what the Chargers will be looking for their upgraded run game. Zach Ertz this past week signed with the Commanders, 1 year, $5 million. It's an upgrade. I don't know why he'd go in division as where he'd be really loved, but that's okay. It's a great way to get some money, sign off, have a good end to your career. Drew Sample today re-signed with the Bengals on 3 year, 10.5. He's just a quality dude to have in that rotation. $3 million a year is essentially nothing for a dude who you invested, I believe, a second round pick in as well. So you get to at least keep that on roster. Albert O, I don't remember when this happened, but he re-signed with the Eagles on a 1.4 year for 1 year deal. He's a talented tight end who's going to be a really, really deep backup. Charlie Werner re-signed, I forgot. He's from the Niners, but he signed with the Falcons today for 3 years, 12. I don't know enough about Charlie Werner, to be honest, to be able to give you a full opinion. It looked like the sentiment was really positive, so happy for him on that. Johnny Munt, with all the money issues that they do have, I'm not really a huge fan of re-signing, very, very low-end tight ends. No disrespect to Johnny, but happy he got his money. I just personally, with all the positions that the Vikings need to target, not really big into that. Chikuma Okorafor this past week signed with the Patriots, 1 year, $4 million. I think it was upwards of 8 with incentives, so that's okay. At least you incentivize him to play well. I don't know if he actually ends up getting a start, but at least the Patriots have some good risk management there. David Quessenberry re-signed with the Vikings. Cool. Happy for him. So offensive guard, the Rams went crazy. We'll talk about actually those two guys before Robert Hunt. So Kevin Dotson re-signed with the Rams for about, $16 a year? I mean, for 1 year of production, a little bit risky, but apparently looking at the market ahead, there's not very many good free agent replacements on the near horizon. So this is actually going to be a pretty solid deal. Hoping the best for the Rams because they're investing a lot of money into low value positions, i.e. guard, with Jonah Jackson and Kevin Dotson. They signed Jonah Jackson from the Lions for 3 years, $51 million. So dropping damn near $100,000 or $100,000, that'd be crazy. $100 million for two guards. That's a lot, but I mean, I respect any organization that's willing to put their balls on the line in terms of the cap to pay to protect their quarterback. Now, I hope that they would be able to draft a little bit better. You're essentially saying, Steve Avila, what's up? I don't know what y'all, if y'all could let me know about that. I'm a little bit confused about the Steve Avila aspect of all of this, but you're getting at least good depth with Steve Avila. That's a second round pick though. I'm a little bit confused on that. I don't know if he can kick to center. You Rams fans, I really do need help on that. So please and thank you. Technically, the Lions also brought back Glasgow. So I forgot about that. The Lions brought back Glasgow. Lost Jonah Jackson, brought back Glasgow. 3 years, 20 is a little bit expensive in my opinion for him. He was kind of like a rotational guy. He's designed to be a backup, but I guess he's going to step in for the meantime until someone is able to come and support. But Ezra Cleveland re-signed with the Jaguars. Remember that 3 year, $24 million deal looks unbelievable now. So great job for Jaguars getting in before the big spending spree. Robert Hunt, $100 million deal to the Panthers. I was all excited. I see Panthers get Robert Hunt. I'm like, ooh, nice. 5-year deal. Ooh, okay. What is this going to be? 25? No, it wouldn't be 25, but what is it going to be? 50? Nah, 100. Robert Hunt, I like him. He's a good guard, right? A really good guard. 20 mil a year? What the hell? Come on. I'm all for protecting. Again, look at this. I was perfectly fine with these deals, right? There's just something different when you're giving a dude $20 million at one position. At least here, it's 100 mil over. You're paying 33 for two rather than 20 for one. And you're getting two high-quality guards here. You're just getting one here. And guard's not exactly the position I think the Panthers need to be desperate to pay for. I know they have the cap space, but, dude, this is a good interior offensive line class. It looks like some teams are really uncomfortable with it. Very interesting. John Runyon also signed a 3 year, $30 million deal with the Giants. I think that's phenomenal. His dad also played in the NFC East, so it's nice to see him back there. $10 million a year. Very good deal. I like that. So those are the deals right there. David Edwards re-signed with the Bills on 2 years, $6 million. Honestly, really, really good value there. And then Cody Ford re-signed with the Bengals on his 1 year deal. Awesome to see that too. Center, Lloyd Cushenberry most likely will sign with the Titans. I saw that from multiple reports. Breaks my heart as a Steelers fan, but it is what it is. Great job for them to be able to replace Brewer, which we'll see where Brewer ends up going because he's also a very similar age at 26, also very, very talented. Andre James re-signed with the Raiders, $8 million a year. I think that there are better centers than Andre James, but you get instant familiarity, and that's okay. Even though you have a new offensive system with Getsy, but it is what it is. Tyler Biadasz went with Dan Quinn to the Commanders, 3 years, 30. He's a top 20 center. It's a little bit expensive, but this team needs help on the interior of the offensive line. I'm not going to complain. Granted, the Jaguars got an absolute steal with Mitch Morse, 2 years, 10.5. Even if he's mid, it'll just be an expensive backup. That's fine. I really do not care. So the Jaguars actually had some good signings. They also had some pretty questionable signings as well. Edge rusher, you got Josh Allen, franchise tag by the Jaguars. They'll be paying him. Brian Burns, I heard that some head ass, I don't know if she's going to be right or not, but some head ass decided to say the Panthers might be getting Brian Burns to the Giants. Don't know about that. I hope they pay him. And I hope they pay him an understandable amount, not like a crazy amount, but I do think they're actually planning to get rid of him. Maybe get some good value out of it. I mean, it's kind of an awful story to see how far that they've kind of fallen, so to speak. The Panthers with Brian Burns, 2 firsts and a second round pick was pretty understandable there. Bryce Huff. So I'll highlight this. I'll start highlighting a little bit just so people understand. I mean, if you guys just listen to it, you guys could probably hear that too, but it is what it is. Bryce Huff signed with the Eagles, 3 years, 51. That's proper market value. You're essentially paying him a Hassan Reddick type contract inflated for what it is the current market value. Someone who played sub 50% of the snaps, still had a very, very solid year in terms of statistics. He's an analytics guy. It's right up Howie's alley. So I'm very excited to see what he's able to do. I think this does certainly put pen to paper on the final deals going away for Hassan Reddick and or Josh Sweat. But one of those, if not both, are going to be traded. Jonathan Grenard, big deal right here. 4 years, 76. Grenard is a great player. I don't know if he's really worth 76 over 4, but, he is a really high-end edge too. I think for a team that is this depleted, I think I'm willing to take that stretch. So I'm excited to see Jonathan Grenard end up really ascending into an edge one for this team. Zadarius Smith, though, holy hell. This is a freaking bargain deal. The Browns do it again. I don't know what the hell's wrong with them, but they're kicking butt. It's going to come down to whether Deshaun Watson wants to finally get back to old Deshaun Watson or not. So we'll see what happens with that. But 23.5 over 2 is ridiculous value. Regardless of how washed Zadarius Smith could be, that's just still ridiculous value for someone who still has that level of greatness in him. BG re-signed with the Eagles for his final year. Floyd ended up signing a 2-year, 20 with the Niners. A solid vet, 10 sacks last year. I think it might have been 10.5. You're just getting some good depth there. Nothing crazy. Danico Autry signed with the Texans, 2 years, 21. You're paying 10.5 for someone who's going to be a consistent dude who you don't have to really worry about. I love that. The Texans do need to have that little bit of reassurance, so to speak. So I think Danico Autry is perfectly fine, and it's a cheap deal. Dorrance Armstrong went to the Commanders, also followed Dan Quinn there, 3 years, 33. You're getting a rotational edge rusher. $11 million a year is a bit expensive, but you're hoping that he would actually potentially become your edge 2 based on that price. AJ Epineza got back with the Bills, 2 years, 14. It is what it is. It's a rotational edge rusher. So good job. Tyquan Lewis, he also re-signed today, 2 year, 14. So it looks like that's essentially your guaranteed backup rotational guys are $7 million a year. So Dorrance Armstrong is essentially signaling that he is a rotational guy, but probably going to be a little bit more on the heavier in terms of snap side. LJ Collier re-signed with the Cardinals. Not a really big deal to me. Chris Jones signed his big deal. We don't really need to go over that, but monstrous deal, became the highest paid defensive tackle in history. Great player. The Chiefs did what they can to keep a player that's irreplaceable, so I respect that. Justin Wadabuike also re-signed for a big deal, 4 years, just under $100 million. He's a great player coming off a very productive year. Christian Wilkins signed with the Raiders. I love that deal for him. It's expensive, but they've been trying to fill out that D tackle spot forever, and they're getting the opportunity to get someone who would be, if we did a redraft, probably a top 10 pick for, being able to sign him essentially with the money that you're saving. So by not having a quarterback, I love it. They haven't been able to hit on a D tackle for a long time. This is a big, big plus. Allows him to go BPA. Grover Stewart back with the Colts, 3 year, 39. Again, he's a really good player. I'm fine with it. I'm not really going to get too bummed out about it. We'll see what happens with DeForest Buckner next year, though. Foley Fatukasi signed with the Texans on a 1-year deal. They're really just doing everything to where they can just go after BPA as well. The value at D tackle at 23 is really not good unless you get Byron Murphy there, which, is a big stretch. Maurice Hurst is back with the Browns as well, 1 year, 3.2. Definitely a need. Their D tackles are relatively mid without Maurice Hurst on roster. Bilal Nichols signed with the Cardinals, 3 years, 30. It's not necessarily the biggest splash move. They also signed Justin Jones, so we'll actually talk about this deal right here for him. So they brought in 2 dudes, 3 years, $60 million total. They need D tackle help. They're not the biggest names on planet Earth, but it's a sign that they're at least willing to address an issue. We'll see what happens when it comes to the draft. And, again, it's a little bit expensive for guys who I don't really think are like supreme talents, but they still have some juice in them. I'm excited to see them come back to their best form. Greg Gaines to the Bucks. He resigns. Big dude, $3.5 million. He's just pretty much a big plug. Big fan of that one. It's cheap. It's good. Linebacker wise, this is one of my favorite deals of the entire day. Frankie Louvu. This team needs a linebacker desperately, and they get a quality linebacker for dirt cheap. Like what? 10.333, etc. $1 million a year for a star linebacker. I don't know why the Eagles wouldn't pay $12 million a year for a quality ass linebacker who's young and hasn't even reached his potential yet. Commanders are doing a great job. Good job to the Commanders. Andrew Van Ginkel signed with the Vikings, 2 year, 36, essentially going to be a pass rusher / linebacker hybrid for them. The Vikings also got Blake Cashman, though, on a 3 year, $22.5 million deal. That is really solid value. They're getting good production at multiple positions. You're getting a very well-rounded linebacker / edge core right now. Just get some extra guys to be more certified edge rushers in there and, maybe get a D tackle here and there. You're good. You're good. It really is a team that's retooling properly. I would just say my only issue with the Blake Cashman deal has nothing to do with him himself. I just really believe in Brian Asamoah and Ivan Pace Jr. They're both my guys in their respective drafts. Drew Tranquil re-signed with the Chiefs, 3 year, 19. Great value. He's a good player. 3 year, $19 million it's a perfect deal for him. Mac Wilson signed with the Cardinals. I keep saying the Chargers. They're on my mind right now. They signed with the Cardinals, Mac Wilson, on 3 year, 15. He's a rotational guy. You're willing to pay $5 million a year. That's a good deal for him. Jalen Reeves-Maybin re-signed 2 year, 7.5. It's a backup type of dude who has rotational starting potential. Walker signed in on a 1 year deal for the Dolphins. I think that's great. Honestly, it's kind of low risk, no issue, kind of just making a good push right there. So next we got corner. So we got that Jalen Johnson deal. We've already talked about that plenty of times. Great deal. Honestly, I would have probably paid $480 for him easy. 4 years, $80 million. So getting him under that is incredible. L'Jarius Sneed, he's going to be traded soon. We'll see what happens where he goes. Cheeto Awuzie went to the Titans. We'll see about the numbers, but I think that Cheeto's extremely underrated. The Titans need help in that secondary, and this forces them not to be overly drastic with their moves. Sean Murphy-Bunting, speaking of the Titans, goes to the Cardinals. So 3 years, 22.5. Cardinals got a very, very quality corner on a relatively cheap deal. That's perfectly fine in my eyes. Isaiah Oliver signed with the Jets on a 1 year deal. Whoop-de-doo. Honestly, it's good depth. Emmanuel Mosley re-signed with the Lions, 1 year, $2.87 million. If he just remains reliable and healthy, this is as good as you could probably ask for. Cheap, low risk, and you can make a good push with him. Troy Hill re-signed with his Panthers on 1 year, 1.3. It's a good depth guy. Desmond King went back to the Texans on a 1 year, $1.8 million deal. The Texans actually have been pretty active in free agency as well. He's a good guy to just have on special teams and good depth there. But also they got Mike Ford. I just don't really know too much about Mike Ford to give you an honest opinion on 2 year, $2.5 million, but it's cheap. It's understandable. They also brought Lonnie Johnson back though. And, I love bringing back guys who could be that safety hybrid because they're also looking for that future addition. A little bit surprised. My dumbass probably skipped over it, but they got Jeff Okudah right here. And Jeff Okudah, if I'm not mistaken, signed with the Texans as well. So I'm really hoping, let's just refresh the page and see what happens. But, Jeff Okudah, if I'm not mistaken, signed with the Texans as well for a 1 year, $6 million deal. I think it's 6 max as well. So good job for the Texans on that part. But regardless, talking about Cam Lewis, re-signing with the Bills, 2 years, 3.1. They just need some extra edge depth, or corner depth, excuse me. Nick Needham re-signed with the Dolphins, 1 year, 1.92. Low risk, low reward, pretty much. Safety wise, Antoine Winfield is kind of key to keep on the team. So franchise tagged, perfectly fine. Xavier McKinney, 4 years, $68 million. It's expensive, but dude, for 24, 25 years old and being an elite safety, this is a great deal. The Packers have money to dish out. They have a lot of capital as well. I think this is an excellent move. Kyle Duggar was transition tagged. I think it's about $13 million by the Patriots. He's also a key identity player for them. So good job by the Patriots. Geno Stone on an absolute steal of a deal, 2 years, $15 million to the Bengals. I love that. They released, if I'm not mistaken, Von Bell as well. Kevin Byard signed with the Bears on that same deal. Last time the Bears, I think, signed a Tennessee safety. They ended up drafting a safety in the second round to grow under them. So excited to see if that is going to repeat. Darnell Savage, Jaguars, 3 year, $21 million. So similar comp package right there. Unbelievable value. Young kid, still has a ton of potential and is extremely aggressive. That's a really good flip by the Jaguars to, deplete their secondary and rearm it very quickly. Alohi Gilmann re-signed with the Bills, 3 years, 10.62. A solid guy who can step up and, play some good reps there in case they can't get a good replacement. Taylor Rapp also re-signed with the Bills on that same exact deal. So they're essentially getting a safety core ready in case they strike out in the draft. Daniel Thomas re-signed with the Jaguars. I don't know enough about Daniel Thomas to give you an honest opinion there, but Brandon Jones, he re-signed with the Broncos, 3 years, $20 million. Really solid safety. Honestly, really good value. The Broncos, I haven't really agreed with most of their moves. They also re-signed PJ Locke, 2 years, $7 million deal. I haven't agreed with the majority of their moves, but the way they retooled their safety core for just much cheaper and still being adequate is commendable. They've had awful asset management, in my opinion, across the board. This is a good change, though. They've done a good job here. So good job for the Broncos right there. Chuck Clark re-signed with the Jets on a 1 year deal. And if I'm going to be honest, I don't know comp packages for kickers, but feel free to take a quick peek at that. But that essentially is going to end off the video. Good job to the Steelers for getting a punter. Woot woot. But that's going to be the video. I want to thank you so much for watching, showing the support that you always do. We'll be back to review these again ASAP. But I love y'all. See you on the far side. Peace.